Oh, time for another talk about the fairy dust from the Middle Kingdom, because like 3 billion people or so are in quarantine on the planet, and me too. And luckily with my job I can work from home, mostly, because it's computer work, so I can connect up and deal with support tickets and stuff to some degree. Anyway, there are some things where you actually need to be hand-on to fix things, or hands-on to fix things, but other things, well, those will just have to wait. It's okay. I'm not as well motivated working from home as I am when I'm actually at work, though. So it's a good psychological exercise for me to try and get there, so that I can work from home just as well as I can when I'm at work, because I think, as I'll talk about a bit later, this is going to keep happening. So, there are still people saying that this is just really a normal winter bug. And it is true what the critics say about the the figures we're being given about things like the kill rate and stuff like that. Yeah, the World Health Organization has said 3.4% is their estimated kill rate. But the truth is, you cannot tell what the kill rate is unless you know how many people are infected. And we know that most people are not being tested. There could be as many as 10, 20, 30 times as many people infected as the actual confirmed figures. We just don't know. And of course then the kill rate will be 10, 20, 30 times smaller than we think it is. Nevertheless, that doesn't mean it's just another normal winter bug, because what we do know is that a lot of the people who get it, or seem to be getting it, are requiring hospitalisation and serious treatment for the pneumonia. So, hence the need for the quarantine, actually. But yeah, the figures about the kill rates are just bogus. They could be anything. Nevertheless, so many people are requiring hospitalisation that there is clearly a problem to be dealt with. And I'm not saying that this emergency is not being abused by some deep state cabal or whatever. I wouldn't know, would I? We don't know. We just have to figure it out. Are people taking advantage of this? You can bet there are bad actors looking at this and thinking, how can I make money out of this? But it is a genuine issue too. Speaking of bad actors, Derbyshire Police here in the UK. Now, the rule that the government has made, which is badly worded, is that you should not go out unless it's necessary, unless it's essential. Okay. So you can go out locally for some exercise. You can go to the shop if you need to buy some food or something. And you can go to work if your work cannot be done at home. That, I suppose they call that essential, but some of those jobs that people are going to are not essential. A lot of building workers are still going to work. Well, couldn't that be suspended? I would have thought it could. And so on. Anyway, I guess warehouse workers are needed so we can buy stuff online still, get our supplies, and to supply the supermarkets and so on. But Derbyshire Police have been out on the Peak District, which is a wilderness area, okay, with a drone, spotting people who are out for a walk in the middle of nowhere. Right? I mean, they are miles from the nearest other person, and they are being spotted by the police, and they made a video saying this is this person walking their dog is not essential. The whole point of the non-essential going out business is so that you don't either contract or spread the fairy dust, right? You're not going to do that if you're miles from anywhere, in the middle of a flipping moorland, right? I can't believe the morons that are running the Derbyshire police force. Seriously, they have a record for this sort of lack of respect for people's liberty, actually. And frankly, I think whoever's in charge of that shouldn't be allowed to run a bath, let alone a police force. And if I were in a position to sack them, I would do it immediately. Anyway, I'm not. So we're being told, various governments are telling us different things, though, that the quarantine will all be over within a few weeks, or within a couple of weeks, or within, and it's been extended and extended, of course. We're in our first week or so, I think, or 2 weeks of lockdown here in Britain. They've had more elsewhere. But there's no vaccine. And the only time such a lockdown could be lifted with 100% safety is if there is nobody in the world that has the illness. Because otherwise it's just going to come back. Unless transport restrictions remain in place and so on. So Imperial College have done some modelling. They're models, so they are dependent on the data that's put in, of course, which may be objective, it may not be, I don't know. But it's sensible what they say, that if we all stay in quarantine and we'll bring the total numbers of infected down over the course of 2 to 4 weeks, then it can be lifted. Unfortunately, though, after a month or so, the numbers will start going up again, because it won't be eliminated completely. And in fact, what they've worked out is between half and 2/3 of the time for the next year or two, we're going to have to keep on going back into lockdown, unless a vaccine is found, and unless enough people take the vaccine. I realise some anti-vaxxers are concerned that vaccines can be tampered with, and we may be being injected with other stuff. I don't know, there's no evidence for it, I think, but it's certainly technically possible. I'll probably take the vaccine. I usually get the annual flu vaccine, so I might as well. It doesn't. If it's affected my my electromagnetic field, I don't know. One will have to see. But we can expect lockdowns again and again and again. Maybe they'll be regional or local, or if the numbers get low enough, it will be possible for the government to do what it should have been doing in the first place, which is tracking individual cases and locking down those people and their contacts, catching them, and thus preventing it from spreading, like they did successfully in South Korea, though it nearly got out of control. They had one woman who they allowed not to get tested for a couple of weeks, and she infected something like 1,600 other people. So it nearly got out of control at that point, but they've managed to catch it. Here, and in places like the United States, the government is really not taking sufficient action. I mean, the place I work at, they closed it down long before the lockdown. It was obvious what was required. Any fool could see it, right? So, and most of our work, as I say, can be done from home anyway. But with this repeated lockdown and with the initial lockdown, a lot of businesses are going to go out of business permanently. I think I'm right. I heard that unemployment in the UK increased by 500,000 in the last week. Norway unemployment doubled in a week. They have a pretty low level of unemployment though, but still, it's significant. And I'm sure the figure is similar in other countries, or worse even. The government has said it's going to pay people and so on. Well, it'll pay some people. None of these schemes are really perfect. But as I mentioned in last week's video, I think of it as a kind of a beginning of a universal basic income. And it might wind up just being, let's do it and see if it works. Costly? I don't know. There are economic arguments to say it's actually efficient. And there are arguments saying, no, it's inflationary. So, well, we'll see if they do it. But there's an enormous number of businesses that may well disappear altogether if this keeps happening, if the quarantine has to keep on being imposed. People-to-people businesses generally. I suppose shops can find a way around it a bit, gloves or hazmat suits or something. But think about cinemas, I wrote a few down, restaurants, cafes, takeaways, theatres, shopping malls, where crowds of people are put together, and high streets, tourism industries, travel and transport, gymnasiums and health centres, real estate, because you need to go and look at places and, Nobody's buying a house at the moment. The market's frozen. So who will benefit from this? The internet-based economy. The surveillance-based economy. Which is the internet-based economy. If you're having to do everything basically online, then the powers that be will be able to track everything. And of course you'll be doing stuff on your mobile phone all the time. Health services may adapt to start blocking fresh outbreaks, of course, and as I mentioned, try to isolate those cases more proactively than they did initially. But I think it's pretty likely that they will be adding apps to our mobile phones to track people's health generally. Now I'll put a link to how this is being done, or the information that's being tracked in Singapore. I'll put it in the description. There's basically 4 pictures in a tweet. It's worth looking at them. It's amazing. And also a short video from China, who are... It's crazy, okay, but this is the level of surveillance we can possibly expect, and more, because probably if the government feels they need to control this kind of thing, they're going to have to track your body temperature and maybe your heart rate and other physiological symptoms, your skin conductance, things of this sort, so that when you are tapping on the phone, maybe you'll wear a gadget and it'll just transmit it all the time, or transmit it to your phone, to the app, or maybe it will just be when you tap on the phone, it is at that moment of contact measuring your temperature and conductance and so on. And danger, danger for liberty, because this can be used to see, what is your physiological reaction while you're watching a video of our great leader, the mighty Boris or whoever, right? Do you like him or not? Your physiological functions will give away the answer. Now, in the West, they'll probably use it to sell you a Make Boris Well Again hat, right, or something. Or a I Hate Boris Glove puppet. Okay. But in North Korea or China, they'll say, this person doesn't like the great leader. We'll knock down their social what's-it score and ban them from certain parts of the country and on certain activities and so on and so forth. Or, if things get tough, we'll disappear them. And that could also happen even in the liberal, ex-liberal West. But in secret, presumably. It's kind of less likely here, but if the level of monitoring goes up so much, you can be sure it will be abused by Derbyshire police, if nobody else. It's all very interesting from a technological point of view, but we are in a war for human liberty as well, really, and the enemies are being handed super weapons. And what can we do? Are we in a queue for liberty or not? I think we'll just have to see. Of course, there are perhaps higher forces helping us out, but they're a bit invisible at the moment, I'll tell you that. Okay, what do you say? Bye for now.